stand out there and look.
Yes. Like you walk in the square.
What the?
Oh, here's you part.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 17th, 2023 meeting of the Dover Area School Board. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mrs. Allman, could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Britton. Mr. Deschaux.
Here.
Mr. Eifert.
Here.
Mr. Emig.
Here.
Mrs. Herman.
Here.
Mrs. Meese.
Here.
Mr. Rawhauser.
Here.
Mrs. Whitmer.
Here.
Mr. Wolverton. 7 present.
Okay, thank you. First, we have our student board presentation. So Camden Buell or Brooklyn Orr? Hello, Camden.
Hello. All right. Hello, I'm Camden Buell, the senior student rep for the Dover Area High School, and I have some news about what's been recently happening at Dover Area High School. So firstly, I'm going to highlight some of our choir happenings. Jensen Gladfelter, Bobby Rep, and Kylie Snellbaker recently represented Dover at the PMEA District 7 Festival over the weekend. And both Bobby and Kylie will be moving on to regional choir next month, but that's a very big honor. That's all throughout, of course, the district, and that means they were very, very talented singers. In addition to that, this Sunday, Renaissance and some Renaissance alumni as well performed at Carnegie Hall in New York under the direction of Dr. Peggy Detwiller. I hope I said that right. And that's very impressive. It's a very big honor, and it's a testament to the performance of our music program at our school. In addition to that, the track team, though not officially starting until spring, managed to gather a few runners, including myself, and we went to the Susquehanna University Invitational. It was quite the experience, very good way to experience for some of the newer members what a track meet is like, and a nice way to also warm up the legs, especially after this break. I will say, however, the air quality, quite similar to last year, was miserable, very difficult to breathe, but I attribute that to the facility probably not having the greatest of air filtration. Gary Lang and Lucas Runk earned first place in the marketing management in DECA's district competition. That's the second year in a row for Dover that they've done this, and that's a very big honor. The DECA program, of course, is the entrepreneurial program at the school, and it does wonderful things, setting up all sorts of different activities. In fact, I believe a little later in the presentation, I have some more information about them. Gracie Jurgis qualified as the PSPA state finalist in the category of literary magazine poetry. And she'll compete at the state level in spring. Again, a testament to the writing quality of her. Furthermore, our Future Farmers of America Association had their midwinter convention, and Brianna Grimm, John Croft, Samantha Perkins, and Lee Schweitzer all received the Keystone FFA degree, which is the highest degree that can be awarded to them. So that's very good, FFA. I know a lot of the students are very involved and very committed to that. So much good on them for being recognized for that commitment. Keystones are taking place, or had taken place, and to my knowledge, most students did not have any significant troubles with them. I personally, as well as I assume most of the junior and senior class, enjoyed the late arrival. In addition to that, currently, the finals for semester 1 are taking place over the course of today and tomorrow. Those are half days, and again, I enjoy the ability to be able to leave with some earliness. The flexibility that provides is quite nice. And on Friday, the second semester starts, and to start it quite fittingly, there will also be a PBIS reward day. DECA organized the Big Give a while ago in December, which was to find some pajamas and whatnot for foster children, and that's of course very nice. Again, a testament to the DECA program and all it does for the school. And lastly, Mr. Deal, our new vice principal, started on Monday, and I look forward to seeing what he will contribute to the school environment. I'm going to invite Brooklyn up now to talk about some other things, if possible.
Good evening. As Cameron said, my name is Brooklyn Orr, and I'll be covering the sports at Dover High School. The competitive cheer team placed 8th out of the 18 teams for District 3 Small Competitive Spirit Championship in December. There'll be 1 out of 12 schools from District 3 advancing to compete for the PIAA State Competitive Spirit Championship at the end of January. This is the first time Dover has advanced to state since 2017. Last Thursday, the Unified Bocce team had their first meet of the year against Dallastown. Ms. Kress' 4th period class created a marketing plan for the event and helped a Fans in the Stands event and sold tie-dye t-shirts to help cheer on the team. We look forward to their next home match. Our boys and girls swim team did very good at the Clearfield Arctic Swim Classic. The boys placed 1st and the girls placed 4th. Congratulations to Dalton Richter for committing to Delaware Valley College for lacrosse. He plans to major in small animal science in preparation for a veterinarian school. Gemma Galagani signed her NLI to continue her track career at the University of Buffalo. She'll be majoring in biology pre-med while there. Girls basketball won the Gettysburg Tip-Off Tournament 44-36, with Hannah Hayes receiving All-Tourney Team and Mackenzie Gamber Tourney MVP. Last but not least, a sophomore, Jazari Albany placed 3rd at the Cumberland Valley Girls Wrestling Tournament. She is the first female wrestler at Dover to place in a tournament. Thank you.
Okay, Camden and Brooklyn, thank you very much for your reports tonight. It's something I look forward to every month, hearing all the great things going on in the buildings. Are there any questions or comments from the other board members at this point? Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we'll move into our presentations. First, Dr. Cartwright.
Thank you, Mr. President. In honor of school board's commitment to our students, schools, and communities, January is once again designated as School Director Recognition Month. Pennsylvania Public Schools educate nearly 2 million students, including the 3,300 students in Dover Area School District. The 9 members of each local school board are a vital part of the district's team, making informed decisions that lead public schools and provide opportunities for every student to succeed. School directors, who are unpaid, are public servants who devote an average of 10 hours each month to the challenging and complex responsibilities of board business, including voting on budgets, adopting policy, and conducting comprehensive planning. Their role has only been made more challenging by the ongoing effects of the pandemic and related issues that impact the well-being of our students and their families. The Dover Area School Board has taken the step of adopting the PSBA Principles for Governance and Leadership, a framework of action steps designed to increase board's effectiveness. Research shows that school board actions have a direct effect on student achievement. Therefore, it is crucial that boards engage in actions to increase their effectiveness for the betterment of the students they serve. To thank our board members, each level of our schools created something different for you. Elementary students made the cards for each of you. There's a stack of cards made by elementary students at each of your places this evening. This banner behind us was made at the middle school. And the coasters that you have at your place were made by high school students. And I believe that Mr. Benton wants to tell us a little bit about exactly how those were made.
Hello, everyone. Just a little bit about the coasters. John Hartley, if you pull out your coaster, John Hartley is the one that created, he 3D drew the box itself, so it is interlocking. We did glue them so they would stay together. And Mr. Smith, Nolan Smith, and Mr. Tim Smith actually helped with the 3D design on each coaster, and they were all printed with the new laser printer that we've received through our supplemental grant through CTE.
Thank you, Mr. Benton.
Yeah.
So tonight we celebrate school board directors, and these are tokens of our appreciation for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a bunch of big athletic guys out there waiting to come in here for their presentations. So Dr. Wiesling, recognizing the football team.
Well, thank you for introducing me as one of those big athletic guys, right? I apologize to all of our boys and girls and our guests here in the audience. We are going to have some big athletic guys walk in here, and they may end up blocking your view a little bit, so I apologize for that. But thank you, Mr. Eifert, and thank you, Dr. Cartwright, and school board members for once again providing the forum for our athletic events, our athletic teams, rather, who we love to celebrate every single week. And I know Dr. Cartwright provides those updates of our celebrations weekly in her Friday Focus. But our opportunity to come here to a board meeting to recognize our postseason advances that our teams do. If you recall back in November, I was able to bring some of our other fall teams and those athletes in for recognition. However, at that time, our football program was still in the district playoffs, so we didn't have the opportunity to recognize them. So we have some of our football players entering the room right now, as well as some parents and our coaching staff. Come on in, guys. You can keep coming in. I'm going to turn the mic over to Coach Snellbaker, who will provide some update or some insight as to some of the accomplishments that not only the team as a group advanced in the districts, but also some individuals. And I know, like I said earlier, Dr. Cartwright had always provided some of those individual updates throughout her Friday Focus. But before Coach Snellbaker comes up, because I know he won't mention this himself, I do want to acknowledge and recognize Coach Snellbaker, because just like our players and our teams get recognized throughout the season, so do our coaches have the potential. And so, like I said, I know he will not mention it himself, but I do want to identify that Coach Snellbaker was selected as the York Adams Interscholastic Athletic Association Coach of the Year, which is selected by his peers in Division II, so that's quite an honor. As well as there's an organization called Game Time PA, which recognizes, if you notice Dr. Cartwright's Friday Focus, we have a lot of our athletes who get nominated for their weekly stellar performance, and they get nominated and you get to vote on those individuals. That same group of organization or group of authors, sports writers, they also nominate a coach. And so that group nominated Coach Snellbaker as the York Adams Interscholastic Athletic Association Division II Coach of the Year. So we are among good company here. So let me introduce you to Coach Snellbaker.
Well, that honor only comes from the coaching staff that I have with me, and they put in countless hours as well, and so they should, if you wouldn't mind, give them a round of applause as well. First, I'll say thank you. Thank you for having us out. Be here tonight to talk a little bit about our 22 season. It brings pleasure to be able to really to talk about some of these guys, not only individually, but as a team. We had a lot of accomplishments this season. Way back towards the end of the 21 season, we started talking about, the 22, what's our goals? And we started putting in the fact that we wanted to get to week 11. We have 10-week season, but we wanted to get to that week 11 to give these guys a little bit of taste of what districts taste like. We went 8-2 in the regular season, which would then end up giving us a week 11 game, which, qualifying for districts, we were seeded high enough to host the first round home game. And I think that's the only 2 times that's happened in Dover's football history. So that's a goal and an accomplishment that these guys have reached, and proud of them for that. We won that first round game, played Garden Spot. Took our second round game, we went to Exeter Township. We came up short in the field that night. The little different animal at that end of the state that we played, and so knowing that now, we're now hoping to build off of that for the next season coming up. Talked about that as a team goals and team accomplishments. I'd like to talk a little bit about our individual stuff. We came up with a thing this year called hashtag Be the Example. And we felt this was big for our team, to bring us together as a team and kind of gel together. And when we did this, it was more along the lines of, at the end of our practices, our summer stuff, we would acknowledge who was going above and beyond what they had to do. So we took that beyond our practices, and then we took it to the school. I emailed Mrs. Fazik and asked if it'd be okay if I sent this out. And basically what I wanted to do was, if a teacher saw one of our players going above and beyond in the school, would they let us know, so then I can acknowledge that in front of the team. And to the surprise of it, and I say that because I know teachers, I am one myself. You get busy during the day, and to take the time to do some of this stuff is tough. But we had some teachers do that for us. And to recognize some of these guys is Josiah Heffelfinger, Sean Henderson, Noah Wentz, Lucas Runk, Eric Campbell, Ben Reed, and Elijah Knight were some of those players that went above and beyond, and we were recognized. So not only are we trying to do it right on the field, we're trying to get it and do it right in the school as well. So it was just something we did this year. We'll probably carry it over the next year to continue it, just to see if you boost the morale and bring things together inside the walls as well. On the field, there's an all-star voting that is done by the York County coaches. We can nominate them, and then York County goes through and they will nominate who they think is the best of what we have. And this is throughout York County Division II. Some of our accolades go to special teams. Our kicker is Nathan Miller, a freshman. He got honorable mention. And our punter, he's here tonight, Gavin Mullins, he got first team. Returner, Thomas Smizer, who is here as well, got an honorable mention for returner. Going to the offensive side of the ball, our center, Ben Reed, got second team. Guards, both of our guards were honored. Don Pfeiffer got honorable mention, and Josiah Heffelfinger got first team. Offensive tackles, again, both of them were honored. Logan Shade and Ryler Poteet both got honorable mention. Tight end Braden Zirkle got second team. Wide receiver Thomas Miser got first team. Running back Gavin Mullins got first team, and quarterback Eric Campbell got first team. Again, this is for the York County coaches. Defensive side, both defensive ends were nominated, and both of them brought home recognitions. Gavin Hake and Reese Husan got honorable mention. Defensive tackles, both again, Dakota Baker and Sean Henderson got honorable mentions. Inside linebacker, Lucas Runk got an honorable mention. Braden Zirkle was first team. Our outside linebackers, Julian Markle got honorable mention. Zach Townsend got first team. Corners, Phil Ford was second team, and Thomas Miser was first team. Safety, Gavin Mullins was first team. That was all York County. Game time, as Dr. Wiesling had said a little earlier, game time goes through and does theirs as well. And we were well represented there as well from those people. We had nothing to do with nominating them. They took their nominations. Zach Townsend, Gavin Mullins, Eric Campbell, and Braden Zirkle all got honorable mention. And Thomas Miser got first team as a corner. We did have an all-state, first team all-state, Thomas Miser. And we had, he was also nominated second team PA Football News as a wide receiver. Our biggest award, we don't deal with it. It's just a nomination. It goes to a senior. It's called the Mini Max Award. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's the oldest organization in the state, and it was established in 1935. And what it does is it recognizes excellence in performance at the high school, collegiate, and professional levels of the game. This club recognizes 55 players across the state of Pennsylvania. So you're not just talking York County, you're talking the whole state of Pennsylvania, and 55 are recognized. The winner of this, Representative Dover, we have one this year, and it's Gavin Mullins. Gavin, you just step forward there for us. To our knowledge, Gavin is the second player in Dover history that has won this award. We had one back in 2020, won it, and now 2022. So congratulations, Gavin. What we'll do is we'll go down to Drexel Hill on February 5th, and basically it's all of Pennsylvania's 55 will be there, and they will pick out the winner for Pennsylvania. And then this also spreads across to New Jersey and Delaware, and they'll take the top one out of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and then that winner will be the overall Max Prep winner of the year. So we're just fortunate enough to have one that's here in our school that they thought was worthy to be nominated or to be honored with this award. So thank you for your time. Again, thank you for having us here. That's just a brief synopsis of our season. It was a great year for us. Thank you.
We do have certificates for all of our players, but we will hand those out privately outside instead of announcing everybody's name and doing that. We'll spare you some extra time here this evening. But we would like to have all of our players who are here representing the team just come forward here into this section. We're just going to get a quick picture with you and Mr. Eifert. Dr. Cartwright, do you want to be a part of that as well? Okay, awesome.
Hey, guys, real quick. Thank you.
Chris, you didn't get the picture? Anyone else want to go over it? Sorry, I'll get it from Andy. Oh yeah, do you want the coaches?
All right, coaches, pop it real quick.
I think you need to get in there. What do you need to get in there? You need to be in there.
Yes, go Jordan, you're part of it.
Part of that. You are part of that,
Jordan.
Oh my God.
Hey, guys. Thanks.
Very good. All right. Thank you. Okay, big night in here because now we also have our kindergarten buddies, Weigelstown Elementary. Is Dr. Strasbaugh stuck outside? The football players tackled you trying to get in here, huh?
Needed to practice my blocking techniques. Good evening. We're going to change gears. We're going to go to the elementary level now, from the football players to elementary. So I'm Bobby Strasbaugh. I'm the principal at Weigelstown Elementary School. And on the board agenda, it says that we are going to give a student presentation on kindergarten buddies. Actually, we have several buddy programs at Weigelstown, so we're going to talk briefly about all of them. So you're going to hear a few things from our teachers, and then we have quite a few students here who are going to explain their experience in the buddy programs that they participate in. So before I turn it over to the students and the teachers, I want to thank all of the teachers, the parents, and the students who came out this evening and gave of their evening to share a little bit of time with our school board tonight. So I will turn it over to them.
Good evening. My name is Miss Forey, and I am one of the kindergarten teachers at Weigelstown. Last year, I had started buddies with kindergarten and fourth grade students. This year, we expanded to include all of our kindergarten classes. The fourth graders come 2 mornings a week to work with kindergarten students on learning games, reading, and to reinforce kindergarten skills. The buddy program is well received by all. It allows our fourth graders to help with learning and serve as a positive role model for our kindergarten students. Our kindergartners enjoy spending time with the older students and showing what they know. We have 2 fourth graders, Michaela and Zane, and 2 kindergarten students, Amelia and Scarlett, who will be sharing what they enjoy about buddies. Michaela will start. You're ready.
Hi. One thing I like doing with the kindergartners is talking to them because they're really kind and funny. Another thing I like doing is, oh wait, I don't know. One more thing I like about their personality is that they listen really well. I'm really glad I'm doing the kindergarten helpers. One of the many reasons I love the kindergartners is because they are really smart too. That is why I love the kindergartners.
Hi, my name is Zane, and I like helping the kindergartners learn by playing games like Math Bingo and One Pack of 10.
Hi, my name is Amelia, and I love to play number bingo, and I love to play learning games with my 4th grade buddies. Hi, my name is Scarlett. I like to play pop game with my 1st grade buddy. It's a hot wood game.
Thank you. And next, are you coming up, Ms. McDaniel?
Hello, I'm Miss McDaniel. So I was able to take 5th grade and 1st grade students, a small group, over to Providence Place. So our 5th graders are going to share a little bit about what that experience was like, and then our 1st graders are going to share what they enjoyed about it. So go ahead, girls.
Good evening, everyone. I am from Wagostown, and I am in 5th grade. I'm going to tell you about Providence Place. We got to get partnered up with a 1st grader. Hi, my name is Layla. I'm also in 5th grade, and I'm also from Wagostown Elementary, and together we got to practice reading some picture books with our 1st grade buddies. At Providence Place, we read to the elderly. It was so much fun. They loved it, and so did we. We made their day, and that was our gift to them. But in surprise back, they gave us some treats back. Thank you for listening to us tell you about Providence Place, and have a good rest of your day.
Hi, my name is Taylor, and I like reading with buddies and to other people because it helped me to learn more about them. It was special for me to meet new people, and I wouldn't see at other places.
My name is Noah, and the residents were very excited to get our books and listen to the stories. They wanted to see the books closer or look at them longer because they really like them. I enjoyed sharing my books with them.
And then finally, we have 2 5th graders that will be talking about our 5th grade and autistic support buddies.
I'm sure. Good morning, girls and gals. Sorry, she's tired. She means ladies and gentlemen. Oh, my apologies. My name is Gabriella. And I'm Cassie. We're from Wagostown Elementary, and we're here to talk about recess buddies. So, about recess buddies, we were buddied with partners for the first half of the year. And for the second half of the year, we get to rotate partners. And guess what? Almost every day, too. We're buddied with a student from Miss Trimmer's autistic support classroom. Also, we help them with their social skills, and we give them new experiences. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Good day. Have fun.
Real quickly, I'll close by all these buddy programs are, the kids volunteer to do them. Some of the kids give up their recesses, they give up their homeroom time with their classmates to go connect with other students in the school. So we're very proud of the fact that we just put these ideas out there and somebody grabs them and takes them and runs with them. So these programs are a lot of fun to watch them grow and develop. So, so thank you, everyone.
I want to say thank you to all of the boys and girls that presented tonight. I know that can be very scary getting up in a room like this in front of all these grown-ups. You did a fantastic job. Family members that are here with them, you can be very proud of your children. They were wonderful tonight. So let's give them all another round of applause. Okay, thank you. Well, after the last two presentations, the parking lot has really emptied out, so we can now find our cars. Mrs. Herman, you can walk 4 miles down to your car after this. Okay, next we have our Global Read Aloud program. Ashley Tice and Kimberly Stilper, did I say that right? Thank you.
Actually not Kim Stilper, it's Jess Border. I'm filling in for Kim Stilper.
Okay.
She was on a medical leave.
All right, Jess, thank
so I'll
you.
be filling in.
So thank you for letting us present. I'm Ashley Tice, one of the 8th grade ELA teachers. We had the privilege of running the Global Read Aloud once again this year. The Global Read Aloud is a worldwide initiative where one particular book, the 8th grade read Strong as Fire, Fierce as Flame, is read by tons and tons and tons of classrooms all around the world at the same time. The person that organized it, her name is Pernell Rip. She's been doing this over a decade. And she sets the pacing, and there are certain chapters that we have to read each week. We do activities with it. We brought some of our students along with us to share what they were able to complete as enrichment for the reading. Getting it?
I was going to say, there are a lot of benefits to reading and the Global Read Aloud. So you'll see some of those listed there. The biggest thing was the connections. Because it's done globally, the students had the chance to connect with those all over the world about the same text that they were reading, which was a neat experience for a lot of them. It was highly engaging. Due to the novelty, the creative outlet that it allowed, the students were paying attention, on the edge of their seat, wanting to know what happened next, not liking long weekends and all of those things throughout the course of reading. It also helped build their cultural lenses. The books that we studied were out of India, so a lot of cultural things and experiences and things they were exposed to that they could relate to our culture as well. In 6th grade, we read Thirst by Varsha Baja. And so the highlights there are they learned about the global water crisis, and that'll be tied into actually science here in the near future, some cross-curricular opportunities for them. They studied Mumbai and discovered its culture. They did a lot of comparing and contrasting to how the character in the book was similar and different to their own lifestyle here. We collaborated via Zoom, Jamboard, and a postcard exchange. A lot of what we did was digital. Again, those opportunities would not have been there had other students around the world not been reading with us. Really proud of my students for their weekly Kahoot challenge. It was trivia based on the book. The book that we read had about 20,000 students competing worldwide in the Kahoot challenge. The top 150 students were recognized each week, and I had several students those weeks being recognized in the top 150. So that's a huge accomplishment. They had creative learning opportunities. They had choice board activities that they could use as their outlets, and we held in-class Socratic discussions to engage their higher order thinking skills. So here are just some pictures of the things that they created throughout the story.
So as mentioned, our book choice was Strong as Fire, Fierce as Flame. That was the middle school, kind of older middle school choice for this year. And it focused on British-occupied India in the mid-1800s. So students had to do background research at the beginning. They presented to each other. Mrs. Stilper's class and my class were able to collaborate with a Schoology course. So they participated in weekly discussions and commented back and forth with each other. The nice thing about this, in order for us to do this, I was able to purchase these books, majority of them from the Dover Eagle Foundation grant, so that was wonderful. And Dr. Haupt graciously gave us a few more so we could all have a copy, because the kids like to have the books in their hands. Probably the biggest highlight, which I think Ben or Natalia, one of them are going to mention, is that we were able to connect with a class in Norway. So that was very cool. We did a postcard exchange. We received a lot of those. I know one of my students sent a postcard over to a classroom in Vietnam. They did menu projects. Again, the students will show you. It just was a really, really cool, successful experience. And as Mrs. Border said, the kids wanted to keep reading. They liked doing the project. So this just shows you a screenshot of what our flip grid looked like. Some of the students from Norway are mixed in with some of our students here from Dover. And I think, are you talking about flip? Natalia will tell you more about the flip grid. And then this is just a screenshot of what our class discussions look like. So Mrs. Stoper and I would provide critical analysis questions for the students to answer and support with, textual evidence from the book. And then they had to comment on each other's. So the students we have with us, Ashlyn Leedy is in 6th grade. She read Thirst with Mrs. Border. And then Mrs. Stoper's student, Natalia Stein, and my student, Ben Ziegler, we read the 8th grade version.
I'm Ashlyn Leedy, I'm in 6th grade, and tonight I'm here to talk to you about my classroom's experience with the Global Read-Aloud. This program opened up so many opportunities for myself and my peers. We had the privilege to communicate with other classes from different states and even countries through postcards and other things that Mrs. Border mentioned. Each week, my class was given weekly activities related to the book Thirst. This really helped us understand the story more and its characters. And on the back 2 pages, we had on these activities were based on the book and gave us a lot of creative freedom and a better understanding of the characters and the message the story conveys. I believe that we should make this a part of our education because the GRA was such a fun, interesting learning experience in my class. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natalia Stein. I'm Miss Stilper's student, and I think the Global Read-Aloud is extremely beneficial because it allowed us to have many experiences and opportunities to connect with the things around us. We got to learn about other cultures through the menu projects and the flip grid. We got to talk to a class from Norway, and that was a very, very intriguing experience for me personally because I like being able to connect with different people and see them and interact with them and learn about the things that they know. I think it's very nice to be able to share that. The menu project allowed us to create our own dishes, and that related to the text because we were able to incorporate the characters into the dishes themselves. Okay.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Ziegler, and I am Miss Tice's student. We did postcards, which we sent to multiple classes. I think one student sent to Vietnam, and multiple sent to other states like New York, Michigan, etc. I have 1 from Michigan, 2 from New York, and 5 from California, which we got sent. And then we had the discussion posts between Miss Tice's class and Miss Stilper's class. And basically, they gave us prompts every week, I think it was. And what we did, we talked about it, and it helped us understand the text more and what we were reading. And it just helped us understand the text more.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for having us.
Students, you did a great job as well. We appreciate you coming in here and sharing your excitement about these programs with us. And teachers, thank you for giving them these opportunities too. We appreciate it.
Thank you for supporting us.
Okay, this brings us to our first public comment period tonight. This is a 30-minute period for items off or on or off of the agenda. 3 minutes per speaker. If you have anything that you'd like to comment on, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
David Conley, and I signed in, so my address is on record. The business presentations from the last meeting, very good. Much better than the presentations from last year. I appreciate that. It helps the public become much more aware of what's going on. And also, thank you for posting those on YouTube, as I was not able to be here in person. The proposals are for 2.5% tax increase and 5.6%. Or a 5.6% increase all the way up to the index, as I understand it. And here we are again, in yet another sequential multi-year effort to raise taxes for Dover. The CBA is the largest driver of cost, which makes the negotiating committee the most powerful driver of higher taxes in Dover. And the rest of the board members need to be aware of that. So one of the most poignant things that was brought out the last meeting, and there's nothing you can do about this cost, there's nothing you can do about that cost, there's nothing you can do about that, which sends the strong message that there's no purpose for the board other than to come and raise taxes. There's got to be something we can do to lower our cost, and we've got to be aggressive about that, because what's going to happen to this community is we're going to enter into a vicious cycle of higher and higher taxation, which is going to kill this area. That is an historical fact that has happened in other places in the world, and if you continue to see it in Pennsylvania, and in particular in this community, it's going to have a terrible impact. If you look at the lower birth rate projections that were talked about, we already see a stagnant community. We're not growing. We do have people that are going to be moving in for some jobs, and hopefully that'll help our tax base. But we've got a real problem here. The cyber schools, I don't know what to think about the cyber schools, but it seems like a fashionable alternative. It has lower effectiveness. I've seen that myself. It has uncontrollable truancy issues, and it's too costly. So I say that we get rid of that. Keep the other options for the public to educate their kids as they would like, but that, I just don't see it as a win for us. The minutes, they're not published yet. 5 meeting minutes will be approved tonight without public view of the minutes. The minutes are the official record of what you talk about here. It doesn't matter what was spoken, it matters what's are in those minutes. Elsewise, you would not be voting to approve them. So those minutes need to be available so that we know and can comment on those. Review of library material. I know it was discussed at the last meeting. One of the board members requested to review the material, but the Dover School Board absolutely has the right to review the curriculum and the library material, and it should be provided to them without delay. I'd like to make a proposal as well. Since I'm the only one seeking public comment, I hope that I won't be criticized too much.
I'm not sure if you are the only one, Mr. Conley.
Okay.
So if you could maybe come back for the second.
I will come back.
All right, thank you. Anybody else at this time, public comment? Okay, we'll just bring you back now for this one, if you can finish up then. All right.
Thank you for that. The public comment periods is something I'd like to make a proposal. In the planning meeting, it makes a lot of sense to hold all the public comments after all the material's been presented. Otherwise, what are we commenting on? So I propose that we do that, and I'd like to see that, moved by a board member perhaps tonight, so that in our next planning meeting, we can do that. I'd also like to see the school board meeting move all the 5-minute comments to before the consent agenda, because with such a 3-minute compressed window, you can hardly cover the amount of material that's going to be voted on that night. And so our comments at the end, the 2-minute window, are nothing more than a post-commentary period that will have no impact whatsoever on the outcome of the meeting, making our comments forgotten, irrelevant, and easily discarded. So I'd ask for a board member, if they would, to please move that we do that, so that it gives the public opportunity to interact. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Okay, Board President's communication. We did not have an executive session prior to tonight's meeting. I did want to remind everyone in the room, though, that under our new meeting structure, every item listed on tonight's consent agenda was open for discussion at last week's planning session. So unlike in the past, I will not be asking Dr. Cartwright to walk down through these items individually again. The board, of course, will have the opportunity to ask any additional questions they may have thought of since these items were discussed last week, but we will do that through our normal motion and voting process. So with that, we will move into the consent agenda, and I will entertain a motion to approve all items under the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion on any of the items in the consent?
It's not on a particular item, but it's just the question why we haven't separated out like the money topics, such as bills paid, treasurer's report. Are we not planning to do that?
They're typically listed in the consent agenda. Only if a board member specifically requests to have them removed for separate votes.
Am I confused? Did we not talk about this before, like maybe the opportunity to just kind of keep it separated out of the consent agenda at one point, and then, I don't know, maybe we didn't talk extensively about it.
I think we talked about it, but then we moved to a different format that kind of allowed us to address, maybe, I think.
With all the conversation, like the planning meeting, everything's there for the discussion.
But I see what you're saying. I mean,
everything's discussed in that agenda, so I'm not sure I understand the need to pull it separately when it's already been discussed as part of that discussion process. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Hearing none, Mrs. Allman.
motion carries 7-0.
Okay, next we'll move into our action category, item 7. Because they are personnel items, they were discussed in the executive session prior to last week's meeting. Personnel matters are discussed in executive session for confidentiality. So first we'll have a motion to approve the LIU general operating budget for 23 and 24.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion on this item? Hearing none, Mrs. Allman?
Can I ask a question about LIU before we go on to the next item then?
Sure.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just for informative purposes. So in the event, say our board wouldn't agree to the LIU's general operating, I mean, does that affect them? Or, I mean, I know it's a collective, right, of so many school districts.
I'm not sure how exactly that would affect them because I've never seen that happen, so I'd have to ask.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was like a percentage of schools that would have to like not agree with their budget for that to even like.
I'd have to ask, I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next I'll entertain a motion to approve the DAE SPA contract for 2022 to 2025.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 6-1. No vote, Mr. Rawhauser.
Okay, next I'll entertain a motion to approve the confidential staff agreement.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, and finally, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Act 93 agreement.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Okay, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to discussion items. Do any board members have anything they would like to bring up right now for discussion?
I think it'd be good for us to just state that the DAC, situation is ongoing, but I don't know if this is time to discuss it or not. Is this when you want to talk about it? What I need, I think, to help clarify where to head from here, because I'm leaning more towards, maybe we need to reevaluate the policy, but what was the circumstances, the situation around adopting the policy? Like, I need some back information. Maybe some of you guys could help that.
In the spring of 2021, we were revising many of the district policies, and 707 was one of them. And we needed ARs, administrative regulations, for almost all of our policies. And that was a project that the facilities committee at that time took on that summer of 2021. So the facilities committee, including 3 board members, worked on the policy and the ARs for about 4 months.
So the policy was there but needed reviewed and redone, or the policy wasn't there prior to that?
I believe we revised both at that time. That was at the very beginning of my tenure here, so I don't want you to quote me. I know that we spent a lot of time on it, on both documents.
All right, so then the policy was adopted with ARs. So we have ARs for that one.
We do. The ARs give you the categories of groups and the pricing structure. That's where all the details are.
Okay. So how does the board feel about the policy now that it's been in place and, just such issues as DAC and whatnot have come up? Is this what you thought it would look like? Or, I just want to have some thought, discussion, open discussion, comments, do you think we should keep it? Do we review it?
Up until now, I don't recall having an issue with the policy until this DAC situation. Up until then, I don't recall of ever having a problem, and I've been on the board for 7 years, and it's never been brought up until now.
Well, what was the big difference prior to the school and the building being demolished?
I believe Mr. Nelson, who doesn't work here anymore, he led the project, and I vaguely remember that I believe the reason was most of our prices were needed to be updated because of all of the new facilities. So they were in the process of updating the prices and things like that. And I know there was a lot of community members in those meetings who were suggesting prices and things like that. So we had a big group in there. I would say at the one meeting, I think we had 10, and I believe one of them was a coach. So
Was Mr. Nelson then a part of implementing the new policy? I thought he had left.
He retired in September of 2021, so he was here the whole spring and summer as we worked through
Was
it.
a part of it. So prior to the building demolishing time frame and COVID, there was old policy, lower fees, lower costs, and then we get a new building and then everything jumps, right? So that's what's on the table now. Isn't that, I mean, is that a clear?
I don't know what the old prices were. I don't remember.
I think there was a complete review of the policy, and there was a review of what other school districts charged as well, and how they handled their facility usage. So there were some comparisons with other districts as to how they actually set up their structure to use the facilities, what types of groups could use the facilities, the types of rates they would be charged. You know, are they charging for custodians? Are they charging for utilities? Because those are all expenses that the district has when it comes to opening up these buildings for people to use. So when we talk about fiscal responsibility, we have to be fiscally responsible to make sure we're covering our costs of doing that when groups want to come in and use the facilities. So that's why a lot of that was reviewed as part of that process back then. And it's a constant review. I mean, there's nothing to say that the board can't revisit the policy again and look at the policy again and look at the structures and how it is. I fully support a facility usage policy that provides equal access to everyone and treats everyone equally rather than separate agreements with multiple different organizations. I just don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's going to bode well for us in the end when it comes to then one group says, well, you did this for them, but not this for me, and it becomes too crazy and gray there. So I say if we have a big concern here, we look at the policy again, review the policy again, have conversations about it, and not rush into anything, when it comes to an agreement at this point.
So when we established the policy and set fees, was there any research or questions from the sports teams, the community, about what was currently being paid, say, by the members or the people involved in the sports, from the coaches? I mean, was there any discussion on, okay, this is where they're at now, how's this going to affect them going forward? Like, were there any discussions about, are there going to be unintended consequences, that kind of thing?
I don't recall any of those conversations. I recall doing the research among many different districts, as Mr. Eifert said.
Based on what the schools were charging?
Correct.
But to Mr. DeShow's point, there were members of the community and other organizations involved in those conversations. So they certainly could have raised some questions and concerns at that time as part of those conversations.
I personally think that what I'm hearing from, many of the youth league organizations is that the costs in this policy towards them have changed so drastically that they don't see an affordable way to continue the program. And I guess I just want to hear more discussion from you guys who are part of it. Do you feel like this is a worthwhile policy to fight for? I mean, revisit, yes. Where are we headed with that revisit? Like, what are we going to change? What is it going to do to the community if we, don't lower the costs and that kind of thing? I mean, all those questions I feel like we need to revisit.
Personally, I would love to hear the people, the activities who are saying this to you to come in. I invite them.
Yes, we should invite them. We should have a big community representation of all the youth sports that are using the facilities. Maybe some of them have opted to not use facilities because they can't afford it anymore. You know, how they're faring under the policy, so we know how to move forward and adjust it. I think that's fair. Maybe the next month. Do we do that during a work session? Do we do it at a separate meeting?
Ben, how would you recommend?
I think that the best way for it to be is that you do have the committee, the
Policy
planning-
committee.
Well, and then you have the planning
Planning
meetings
session,
now,
yeah.
where they could come, it's a public meeting, they can come and comment to the board as they deem necessary. There's also avenues that they can use, such as emailing board members, emailing the administration what their concerns are, have those forwarded to the board for review. So there are other avenues for them, there are avenues for them to come here. They could come to the regular board meeting and discuss it. I know that issue's been tabled, and that we'll discuss, and it'll be looked at another time. So they do have those opportunities to come here and discuss it, as Mr. Deschaux has mentioned, for the ability for them to let the board know what they want to do. So that is available to them to come here and do that.
Anything else on that? I have another question unrelated.
With the figures for DAC and the youth basketball, I'll just say DAC, I kind of ran some numbers, and it looks like they would have to pay the school district like $60,000 for the year to use the facility. So they have about 119 members, so that's a cost increase of about $500. They're already paying $200, so then the members would have to pay about $700.
No, they wouldn't have to pay that much during the school year. They don't have to pay any rent when the building is open.
So they don't have to pay any rent like at night
When
during the week?
When the building is open and there's a custodian on duty, they don't have to pay.
So
the
when
extra
is
fees.
so yeah, I'm misunderstanding that. So is the building open, so when they have practice, like 5 at night?
There are custodians
During the
on
week.
duty Monday through Friday in the evenings.
Okay, what time are they on duty until?
I think it's 11.
So, no, the type C or the category C organizations don't have to pay anything as long as there's custodians already on duty.
They don't have to pay the
custodian
fee.
Oh,
Right.
right.
It's the summer hours when the custodians weren't on duty that became.
And then the $45 an hour if they're using the facility Monday through Friday. So if they're using it for like 2 hours, they pay $90.
Correct.
But not the other fees. Not the other like rental fee.
I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
have
okay.
the AR memorized, and I don't have it in
Okay.
front of me, so I don't
know it's a
want to tell you the wrong thing. But the numbers that I gave you in the report on Friday,
Right.
with a sample summer schedule,
Mhm.
those were fees that any group would pay when the building is not open. Summer evenings
Okay.
and weekends,
Okay.
and weekends throughout the school year also. And the fees for basketball are higher, as you will notice. They have a lot of games on Saturdays,
Okay.
so that's the reason for that.
Okay.
Kelly, in your email, when you say 207 events in 2022, events meaning practices, event, like weekend meets?
Anytime they use the...
That's called an event?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think maybe, I don't know, because I wasn't on the committee, obviously, but when we used policies from other districts, I don't know what other districts we compared to, but was it a district like Dover where we don't have other facilities that are similar? You know, they might have more like township facilities available that the youth organizations don't need. Like our youth organizations in Dover kind of need our district's facilities because we don't have a pool. We don't have a pool. I don't know that we have a rec center per se for basketball, you know, so the only like facilities that these youth programs have available to them. So I just don't know if we were comparing apples to apples when another district was like, this is a policy that works well for us, but really those youth organizations don't have to use the facilities that much. You know,
I
like they
can't
do
tell you
here.
what
That might have been-
facilities every township or district has in their,
Yeah.
in their area that we looked at.
Yeah.
There's no way I could tell you that.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, maybe that wasn't really taken into account. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, and, you know, Mr. Deschaux, you haven't had an issue being on the board in the last 7 years until now, when this new policy after COVID, now the youth sports organizations are trying to use the facilities, and now it's all coming up. I mean, I've heard from our youth football, I've heard from our youth basketball, baseball, and the swim program. So I would rather tackle this as a youth sports program wide, because I don't think solving the DAC problem is going to solve the overall problem for our youth sports. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if we have to do a category F or something for our youth sports programs. I don't know. I know, and I don't know if we want to, if the goal of this policy is to make money, or is the goal of this policy to keep our facilities clean? Is the goal, you know, security? I'm not sure, because it seems to me like the goal of this policy is to make money and add an income line item to our budget. And if that's the case, then we need to know that, you know, because that's part of our decision-making process. And part of me, maybe me as a board member saying, that's not how I want to make money in our line item. I know we have to be fiscally responsible. That's just my opinion. I don't know, I kind of have to think that through, but what's the goal of the policy? It's probably got a lot of goals. What's the main goal? Is it to make money?
The goal was never to make money. It was to cover our own costs and to maintain our facilities, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Well, $45 an hour for a custodian seems a little high.
Well, that is the salary for the average custodian plus benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about an hourly wage, we pay a lot more than that when you look at all the
Is that
benefits.
public information, what we pay our custodians? Is that public information?
I doubt it.
Okay.
Christina wants to say something.
Sorry. Our salary scale is public, so when the contract that you just voted on tonight will go public on our website.
Okay.
Now that it is voted on. But the salary is not only their wage, but it's at time and a half, because when we're charging it, it means a custodian is not here, which means it's above their 40 hours.
Okay.
So if I have to bring a custodian in on a Saturday, that is beyond their 40 hours Monday through Friday. So it is at time and a half, plus you are correct, that is the PSERS cost and the benefit cost that goes in. Like, that's what, the $45 is what it costs the district to employ that custodian for those hours on a Saturday. It's not to make any more money or any less money. It is truly what, like, to have a custodian here, that's what it costs us per hour.
Okay.
So.
That's just, so if our pricing is just to cover our costs, I'd be interested in seeing that, like that broken down, and how, you know, and making sure that those rates that are in that AR are true, you know, I don't know, or are they just rates? I don't know. Seems high.
I think too, for
Seems like a lot.
custodian costs or any kind of costs related to the district for maintenance or cleaning, it should make sense. It should be, you know, comparable to the amount of effort and time swapped with the group in there. So for instance, Dover Diamonds maintains the field. They do most of the maintenance. They do a lot of the work. So why are we going to charge them for somebody who doesn't have to do it? But I don't know the ins and outs with Dover Diamonds, but I know with DAC, you know, they're in there on a meet Saturday, Sunday, whatever, very early, 6-something in the morning. And there's no messes at that point. There's no reason for a custodian to be there except for when the meets are finished, around noonish or 1ish. And then the custodians have been there from opening till even hours after DAC is done. I just don't see how that's a cost that they should be paying for every single time they have a meet for that whole extended time frame.
The custodians work while they're there. They don't just sit around waiting for DAC to leave. And it's a district employee opening and closing the building. So it's a district employee being in the building.
What I'm saying is while I'm there, there's no custodian that needs to do a whole lot. I've seen a custodian one time at the end of the meet change the trash bags that they weren't even like completely full. So, you know, we clean up concessions, we clean up everything. And if there's something else that occurs, you know, people get on it. And I'm not saying they don't have to check, you know, clean bathrooms, locker rooms, bleachers upstairs, and, you know, if we are able to use the concession area, they have to, you know, clean up that area. But that in and of itself might be hour and a half, 2 hours. They don't need to be there at 6 in the morning till 2, 3 in the afternoon. That's a charge that DAC shouldn't have to accrue. This is the stuff that I'm saying we should have more discussion about. What's fair to the, you know, the organizations that are using it for the costs of the things that they need. If they need somebody to run tech for an event, you know, what are the hours that they need them to be there?
Mr. Fluke, did you want to add anything to the conversation? Absolutely.
Would you like me to come up?
Please, please.
Sir, on the on what we charge each group, I know Dover Diamonds, we don't charge them anything. For especially back here for Keller Park, they take and maintain the field. We don't charge them anything. They take care of the diamond techs. If the field's too wet, they rake it. They do all that stuff, so we do not charge them. As for the pool and the numbers that I saw for the pool, they are really actually underwhelming when it comes to it. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that happens to run a pool. I've been involved with pools for going on probably 16 years now. I've originally worked for Pool Pack International, which made the dehumidification unit that sits on top of our pool. It's a desert air unit. Pools are very expensive to run. So that fee that they're charging, they're proposing for DAC is very low. We run a 30 horsepower pool pump that pushes about 1,370 gallons of water per minute. So the electric, just to run that alone, is very costly, along with the chemicals and everything else. So when that bather load comes in and we have like a meet there, you're going to use a lot more chemicals to keep the levels within the state levels for, you know, to keep the pool clean. So as the bather load increases, you use more chemicals. So to run a pool is very expensive, and I think Dr. Cartwright can also say that what we were proposed that was in that was actually lower. So the cost to run that pool is a lot higher. So it's really kind of discounted in a way.
So how come, so we're not charging one of our youth sports leagues and charging another one? So we're not following the policy in some circumstances, but we are following it to the T in others, or not?
No, I just think that there's a difference in what I was trying to show, like the difference between running a pool and a baseball field. That's kind of what I was trying to show the difference of. Like the baseball field, you know, it's a lot cheaper to run that compared to what the swimming pool would be run.
So do these ARs have different pricing for the facility that's being used? Or is it strict? Okay, okay.
Yeah, I believe the one that I saw, it does break it down for what they're using.
Okay.
So it's fair to each organization.
Okay.
It's not, we wouldn't charge Dover Diamonds what it would cost to use the
Right.
pool, or we wouldn't charge Dover Youth Basketball what it would charge to use the baseball field. So yeah, from what I saw, and Dr. Cartwright, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, they were very fair in when it broke down to each individual sport, because you wouldn't want to charge one, you know, across, because they're using different facilities.
Mr. Fluke actually said that we're charging too little for the pool.
I did.
At 100 and 125 for the gym, and they're not the same.
Yeah, if we wanted to be fiscally responsible, like President Eicher said, we should be charging more for the pool, because just the amount that it costs to run that, and just pure electricity, just for that pool water pump.
So how would you solve this problem with DAC? I mean, are we gonna have to charge our DAC members $500, $600, $700 to swim? Well, how do we solve this problem?
I think it's a problem that has a really good start to fixing, but I've only been here, this is my week plus 2 days, so I'm very new to the district.
You don't know the answer yet?
I don't have an answer yet.
Oh.
No, I don't. I like the way that it's heading, because being fiscally responsible is what the district wants.
Yeah.
And it's going to be what everybody wants. You know, but I think it's a really good start on where we're going with having that policy in place. Yeah.
The only thing I was going to bring up was, Heidi, you mentioned that we've been hearing from DAC or whoever. I haven't heard from DAC. The only person I hear about DAC is Carmen. DAC is the president of DAC. Do you sit on the board for DAC or anything?
Well, there's.
So I was just wondering, because
There were, no, I mean, it wasn't too, we've had a couple youth sports organizations asked to hand out flyers, like they've been here. I mean, it's
Right, but they
been
never
like
said
10
anything
months
about
ago. DAC was one of them, like football was one of them. So like this youth sports, I just don't think, I think they're just kind of problem solving in their own, you know, team. And it really, you know, it's kind of just a new problem. So, you know, the district's relationship with our youth sports program. And I just want to somehow, like, can we have a liaison or something? You know, I don't know, but like just somehow work on this relationship with our district and our youth sports program.
Oh, and I agree, and that's why I said I invite them to come here, because as of now, we haven't had in the last couple of months.
No, it hasn't been the last, I think the holidays and, you know, I mean, yeah, it's been a couple of months, but I think they've tried.
DAC never stopped communication with the district even the whole time the school was being built. They waited and waited to get in because they needed to start their season and start up everything. The community kept emailing them, when are we gonna have the pool open for swim lessons? When are we gonna have, you know, the rec swim? They were emailing DAC about those questions. So they would sit down with Almer and Zach, and they would get nowhere, and they would get nowhere. And they were told that they weren't, from the athletic department, that they weren't willing at a certain time to even discuss outside organizations coming in because of COVID. So they got pushed back even then. So there was a lot of just, you just wait, and we're gonna do things our way, and so you just have to, and so there's been communication behind the scenes, not with the board.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
think
good
they
thing
would.
we invited them then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How many youth sports organizations do we have in Dover? Is there like 5? Do we know? No? Okay. I think the next step would be to invite them. Invite some of their leadership to a board meeting and say, come tell us
How the policy has affected the.
Yeah, I
your
sat down with somebody from the football, this was a while back, and we went through this AR, and it was confusing. I need to look at it again with the information that I have now, but yeah, just get their opinion on it and how financially it'll impact them and the kids that want to play the sports. Can we make the youth sports program part of our district, maybe? No? We don't want to do that? Has that been successful in Mechanicsburg? No. Depends upon who you talk to.
I just want to know, is there a way to like formally invite them and have an actual like meeting attentive to them? Like,
Yeah, like, so we had all these presentations, which were awesome, but can we have presentations from our youth sports organizations? Is that possible? How does it get on the agenda that we have presentations?
Organizations can request to be part of the agenda. There's a policy for that.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Cartwright, if I could ask, have you been meeting with DAC? You know, have our administrators been meeting with DAC? And if so, how many meetings have we had with DAC at this point?
Mr. Ulmer and Mr. Gump had several meetings with them.
Okay. I'd quite frankly like everyone to take a deep breath and step back a little bit, because we also have a brand new facilities director here, and we have a brand new CFO. This is day what?
It'll be
1, 2?
It'll be okay.
Day 1. I'd really like to give them the opportunity to sit with Dr. Cartwright and Dr. Haupt to talk about this too, and talk about the policy that's in place, you know, what they think from a financial standpoint, from a facility standpoint. You know, I mean, you mentioned that you think our price is actually low compared to where it should be to operate a pool. I think it's important that we give our new folks some opportunity to also discuss from a district standpoint the impact that this could have. You know, we have to think from a district standpoint too here. I certainly want to support every organization that we can in any way to help them operate, help them to function. But as board members, we're also responsible for the district and making sure that this district is fiscally sound, it's operating efficiently, it's operating effectively, our staff is involved and engaged. So we have a lot to weigh here and a lot to balance. So I really think we need to take a step back, give them some time to talk, give the youth sports programs times to talk, look at the policy again, you know, after we've heard from all sides of this, and maybe we revisit that policy and revise it at that time before we just rush into anything. That's just my thought regarding that. I'm certainly open to other thoughts, but I just think we need time for our administrators to regroup on this. We need time for the sports organizations to regroup. We need time for them to all chat and come together and discuss, and then for us to weigh, you know, at that point, you know, our thoughts as to what we think with this. So that's where my mind is on this at this point.
So since we went to the time and effort to do the lease with DAC, would it be possible to vote on that? Because that'll be a temporary solution at least, because I agree with what you're saying, but that's going to take time, and I don't know that we'll be able to resolve anything, and I don't see them being able to afford these fees. So I
think if we could ask DAC to look at the lease and see if that would even like work for them, then we
Right.
can talk about it and go back and forth.
Just a reminder, that lease it's a draft. That has not been shared, discussed, sat down with DAC yet. That was based on the meetings that Mr. Ulmer, Mr. Gump had with them and what they desired to have in a lease.
Okay.
So they haven't seen that document yet. The process, and I believe that Dr. Cartwright sent out correspondence to you all about the fact that the motion is just for us to move forward with that lease, your permission to move forward with that lease, to talk with DAC, and any final agreement would come back to you all for a vote. So that's what ultimately they have not, and to Carmen's comment, they have not seen nor have we heard any feedback from them on that lease, because we have not received permission from you all to even move forward with that lease yet, to even talk to them about the contents of that lease. That was just our draft to see if you as a board are willing to move forward with such a document. Then we would share it with DAC, we'd have the administration, would have discussion with them, and then any final agreement would come back to you all for a vote.
Do you know if Zach was comfortable with that pricing, as far as, I know there's some other things like Kathy alluded to that she was concerned about, but if we can just look at the financial impact, does that lease cover the financial impact?
The numbers that you see on that draft,
Yes.
that everyone, meaning administratively, was comfortable with those
Okay.
figures.
Okay. So I think that we should bring that back to the table at least, and we can at least solve that temporary. I mean, you guys put all that work into it. Can we at least vote on that a while until we can look at these ARs?
So I know that they had a chance to review it, but they were told back in October by Ulmer that the board wasn't willing to work with them, so they were completely blindsided by the lease at all, like completely. They were in the dark, and so at this point, I think they need some more time to discuss it too.
Understood.
So, I mean, obviously, if they want to bring it up as an option, because it's going to take us a while to review policy and maybe look at those costs versus the lease costs, like, I think that's, you know, maybe on them. I don't know.
The lease, the motion to direct us to pursue the lease with DEC was on the agenda tonight for a vote. A board member requested that it be removed. Otherwise, you would have been voting on it tonight.
Okay.
Because it was on the agenda last week to discuss.
Okay.
Because it was on this.
So we could bring that back in February.
Okay.
We
Yes.
could at that time. Yep.
Yes.
Do we bring it back to say we want to present it, and so we have to vote on it to even present it?
Correct, that's the way we've put that together, as to present it to them for discussion, and then any input that they would have, and then any, based on the discussions that we've had over the last couple of months about this issue, design it to address the board's concerns, their concerns, and then have a final vote on it after those discussions, correct.
Do we do that only if they're interested in it still, or if they're not interested, just nix it?
If they're not interested, then you
There's
don't
no
have an agreement.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. one more thing about the pool, if I could, not about DAC, but the pool itself. I was actually told tonight that the paint on the bottom of the pool is completely peeling off and like really nasty. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed. And the bulkhead is apparently really disgustingly dirty too. Other than that, I have no further comments about that policy. But I do have another question, and I don't know who to direct this to. It's in regards to a comment brought up by Darcy and Kim during the budget review about tuition costs and the thought of lowering them. So that kind of like confused me, and I just wanted to know, is that something school districts do? They like increase and lower tuition costs based on ideas of needing to get more students, or I don't know.
My comments about the tuition is just that based on the numbers of students phasing out, that revenue line item's going down. But there is a tuition rate, an elementary rate and a secondary rate for tuition set by PDE each year. So that's what's being used for billing. So sorry if that was misleading, but I think that might be what you're referring to when we were showing that total revenue line item going down, but it wasn't a function of the rate going down.
I'd have to pull up my notes.
It was the number of Washington Township students graduating and not being here anymore.
Right.
It was your recommendations, and you had a whole list of things to look at: facility and operations cost savings, use money from fund balance, investment income, subsidy lawsuit, increased tax, the GESA,
Guaranteed energy savings.
medical plans designed during negotiation. These are ways that and then you put lower tuition costs, monitor revenue trends from the government budget.
And that was just in general, look at, it's one of the projects that Dr. Hauk is working on. When she talked about meeting with all of the external cyber charter students to try to get them back to Dover's program, it's looking at lowering the tuition expenses you're paying.
I got it.
No, we don't, and again, the cyber charter rate, that is also set by a formula by the state that we're paying for students that are enrolled in outside cyber charters. So does that,
does
that help? And I think we were also some of the other things that Dover has been doing are taking back IU classes. So that's an excellent way to save money. You look at the number of students you have enrolled in an IU program, and if it reaches a certain benchmark, that you're going to save money by hiring a teacher and bringing a class back. So that's what we meant by collectively looking at all your different tuition expense line items to try to save money there.
Thank you for that.
Anything else? I just want to clarify, is the CFOO and the facilities director going to meet with DAC before our next meeting in February? So we have more information. If we're not, then what's the use of even voting on a lease if then we're not going to have the information by next month? Because personally, I'm not comfortable until I have all the facts right.
Well, I guess what would they meet with them about? Like, what would the facilities director and the
Well,
CF?
whatever Mr. Ulmer had talked to them about, I don't know.
What facts are you looking for in order to be able to vote?
As far as let them see what the lease is about and see what their opinion is.
I think we have to vote on being able to allow them to see the lease. Like, we have to vote to say they can see the lease.
They've seen it. It was attached to the agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, they can see it.
They've been reviewing it
attached
just
to
since
the
It was
yesterday.
attached. It was attached for your
Yes, it
planning
was.
committee.
Okay, so, yeah. So why do we have to, okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So can't we get, so okay, so if you and the facilities director, I'm sorry, I forgot, what's your last name? Fluke, Mr. Fluke. Can we get their opinion first on the lease?
The way that this has been structured is that you need to give them permission to meet with DAC to talk about the lease. That's the way.
We need to give them.
Yes.
Okay.
How about this? How about I reach out tomorrow and find out through the board for DAC if they have reviewed it enough to the point where they want to continue to talk about the lease? And then I can inform the board. Can we do that?
I would appreciate if you had them inform the administration, because the
Inform the
administration is the one that's been discussing this.
Kelly?
Sure, Dr. Cartwright.
Okay.
Dr. Cartwright would be the first one to start the catalyst.
Straight to, okay. Yep, I'll do that.
You're off the hook. For now.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our reports then. York Adams Academy. Mr. Remick.
Yeah, we had the winter graduation on December 13th. And we did have one student that had graduated at that time. And since 1990, there was 4,364 graduates that went through York Adams Academy since 1990. So, and our next meeting will take place on January the 31st.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Remick? Okay, Mrs. Meese, York County School of Technology.
Our meeting is Thursday, so I don't have anything to report tonight, but I will in February.
All right, thank you. York Learning Center. Any report?
I think that was Mr. Ulmer's committee.
Okay. So that will be Mrs. Weaver's committee now. Would you like to report on anything, Mrs. Weaver, on day one? Okay, Dr. Cartwright, LIU and Special Ed.
No report this evening, thank you.
Mr. Rawhauser, Legislative.
Well, we have a new administration sworn in today, and we'll see how their ideas work out on the two parties working together to try and improve things throughout the schools and some other projects they're talking positive about. We'll know more by the end of the year.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Rawhauser? Okay, Mrs. Herman, Dover Industrial Development Committee.
Yeah, we did not have a meeting last month, and our next meeting is next Wednesday.
Okay. PSBA, Mrs. Brinton is not here, so we'll go straight to the superintendent's report. Dr. Cartwright.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a number of celebrations to announce since the last regular meeting on November 15th. Some of these have been mentioned by others. I'm still going to stick with my script, though, because I don't want to leave anybody out. And if I butcher names, I apologize. Miley Bach is the young lady who graduated from York Adams Academy on December 13th. She is planning to attend YTI's Vet Tech program starting this month. Congratulations to Landon Day and Isaiah McGee for committing the next 4 years to the Marines. Congratulations to Gemma Galagani, who signed her letter of intent to continue her track and field competition and academic career at the University of Buffalo. And to Dalton Richter, who signed his letter of intent to continue his lacrosse competition and academic career at Delaware Valley University. The middle school held its annual National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony in December. This was the 7th group of 8th grade students to be inducted since the NJHS was formed at the middle school. Dover Area Middle School was proud to announce 39 inductees. On Sunday, January 15th, as you heard, Renaissance and Renaissance alumni from 21 and 22 were invited to sing in a concert at Carnegie Hall in New York City. They performed at Carnegie Hall for the Performing Arts Educators Concert Way Over in Beulah Land, featuring the music of composer Stacy Gibbs. The group had a workshop with Mr. Gibbs as well as a tech rehearsal with Dr. Peggy Detweiler, Director of Choirs at Mansfield University. This was the third time Dover has performed at Carnegie Hall based on a direct invitation from the artistic director Peggy Detweiler. The group had a great time and our students represented Dover very, very well, and we are very proud of them. We have some beautiful photos to share this week in my Friday Focus email. Senior Kylie Snellbaker was asked to perform the national anthem at the PIAA State Football Championship held at Cumberland Valley for the AA game between Southern Columbia and Westinghouse. Congratulations to Bobby Rep for making the NAFME All-Eastern Choir. Students in this ensemble are selected from a pool of auditions submitted from students in Connecticut, Delaware, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington, D.C. This year, the festival is in Rochester, New York in April. As Camden Buell mentioned earlier, Kylie, Bobby, and Jensen Gladfelter performed in the district choir at Solanco High School last weekend. The Dover Drama Department presented The Outsiders on November 18th and 19th. Congratulations to the cast, crew, and directors and staff for an outstanding production. The FFA chapter recently held its Green Hand and Chapter Degree reception, during which 14 FFA members earned their Green Hand degree and 5 FFA members earned their chapter degrees. Last Monday, January 9th, at the Pennsylvania FFA Midwinter Convention at the PA Farm Show, Brianna Grimm, class of 2022, John Croft, Samantha Perkins, and Lee Schweitzer received their Keystone FFA degree. This is the highest degree that can be given by Pennsylvania FFA. Levi Bishore, Clayton Grimm, and Lucas Halterman received their FFA jackets, earned through the Pennsylvania FFA Alumni Jacket Scholarship Campaign. One more page, I'm almost done. Dover Area High School DECA earned a chapter honor and was recognized for Thrive Level chapter campaigns. We shared the press release in December. The Dover Unified Bocce team opened their season with a home match against Dallastown in the high school gym on Thursday afternoon. The theme was Fans in the Stands, and team members and spectators wore tie-dye in support of the team. Congratulations to the varsity competitive cheer team for their performance at the PIAA District 3 Competitive Spirit Championships held at Central Dauphin East High School on Saturday, December 17th. Their successful finish advances the team to the PIAA State Competitive Spirit Championships held at the Giant Center in Hershey on January 27th and 28th. Congratulations to Mary Alice Craig, Mackenzie Gamber, and Hannah Hayes for being nominated for the Game Time PA YAIAA Female Athletes of the Week, and to John Bubb, Mason Hockenberry, and Jacob Smizer for being nominated for the Game Time PA YAIAA Male Athlete of the Week in their respective sports. On December 19th, Gavin Mullins was named as a recipient of the 2022 Minnie Maxwell Award, as you heard from Coach Snellbaker. Game Time PA selected their YAIAA League All-Stars. These selections are made by the writers and reporters for Game Time PA. Coach Wayne Snellbaker was selected as the YAIAA Coach of the Year. Thomas Smizer was named first team cornerback. Eric Campbell, Gavin Mullins, Zach Townsend, and Braden Zirkle were named honorable mention. Congratulations to Coach Snellbaker and to our Dover football student athletes. In addition, Thomas Smizer was named 2022 Class 5A All-Eastern PA Football.com team. Eric Campbell and Gavin Mullins were honorable mention. The 2022 edition of the Eastern PA Football.com Class 5A postseason team consists of players from schools of districts 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 12, and independent teams. There is a first and second team and honorable mention for this postseason team. The counseling department led once again the Spirit of Giving program over the holidays. The district and community were able to brighten Christmas for just over 300 of our students. That ends my report, Mr. President.
There's a lot of stuff there.
A lot happens in 2 months.
Great. Any questions from our board members? Okay. This brings us to our miscellaneous period for any other comments or observations from our board members.
I have several things I'd like to say. First of all, it really warmed my heart to hear those former students' names being mentioned. I'm really proud. Okay. There's some things that are said sometimes in our meetings that I think we need to be more cautious with. I know we're getting comments from the community, but I think before we go and condemn people in our district or buildings in our district, we need to find out what's really happening. And the first thing, though, I'd like to say is there was a comment made last week by someone about the Incredible Years program and how it's being taught, critical race theory is being taught in first grade. So I made it my business to be there, and I visited and I watched today, and it was extraordinary. There is no, there's no CRT being taught in first grade. This is a wonderful, wonderful program that evaluates, it's a curriculum that evaluates the best solutions or choices to problem situations, as well as strengthening friendship skills. I saw children being taught how to listen and wait for others to respond. And that's one of the first units that they teach way back in September. And I saw that today. It was wonderful. They're taught how to follow directions. They're taught how to deal with their emotions, how to understand when their feelings are hurt and what to do about it, how to feel happy, how to figure out solutions to their problems, to learn how to stop and apologize to people, to learn how to ignore some of those hurtful things that are said to them. And sometimes they just need to get a parent or a teacher involved in this. They're taught a little bit about controlling their anger, well, a lot about controlling their anger. They had a thermometer there, and it showed, like, okay, when you're really angry, what's the first thing you should do? And I have to tell you this. So I walk in, and I taught first grade once, so I love this age. And Mrs. Smith, the teacher, introduced me to the children, and and she explained why I was there to learn about the program. And this little girl came out and she took my hand and she took me up to the front and she showed me the card. That was a little turtle where he got his foot stepped on and what he was going to do about it. And then she showed me the next card. So what you do, the stop sign was there. You stop. And then it went on. She went on to explain each step of the program, how then sometimes you have to walk away. Sometimes you have to get somebody else involved. She explained the whole thing and then on the thermometer, how you slowly cool down. And sometimes there's breathing brought into it. We're all taught that. My husband has high blood pressure and his doctor told him to do that. You know, we're all taught to calm down, to think about what's happening and to slowly breathe. Okay, they're taught positive play skills, teamwork, asking permission to borrow property, being polite and giving compliments. And you know, the one thing I walked out of there with was, you know, maybe if more of our children across our country had this program, we wouldn't have guns brought to school to settle problems. They'd know how to settle their problems. And they also, parents are all asked if they want their children to be a part of this program. So it's not just a fly-by-night thing, and the parents have to agree to it. And they do, at the end of each lesson, they're given a homework sheet that they can do. It's up to them and the parents. But there's a double side. The one problem, there's a problem that's on the sheet, and then the child figures out how to respond to this, and either they can write a solution or their parent can, and they can return it if they choose to. Wally's classmate, Big Red, has been using the computer for a long time and doesn't want to share. Oh my golly, if that's not a first grade thing. Wally wants a turn. What can he do? How do you solve problems without causing bigger problems? So anyway, I think we need to be careful about throwing things out there in our community that are being taught in the schools and they're not being taught. And the other thing was, I had a wonderful visit to the middle school last week, and I wanted to do this because I've heard the middle school condemned, where the principals, and well, not just the middle school, but a lot of schools, the principals are sitting in their offices all day, and I haven't heard the middle school, the discipline, the children are running amok. So I was really eager to meet with Dr. Houck and take a tour. We're always being invited by Dr. Cartwright or Dr. Houck to go along on their visits to any of the buildings in the district. So the first thing that happened was when I walked in, the secretary took me back through the office suite to meet up with Dr. Houck. And I made sure I checked each office as I went back there. And you know what? They were all dark. There weren't any principals or assistant principals or dean of students sitting in their offices doing nothing. And I saw them as we toured the building. I saw them out working on it. Maybe they were monitoring the cafeteria. I saw Mrs. Huffnagel on her phone talking to a parent. I saw all kinds of things with administrators. And we visited Mrs. Brown's autistic support class, and we observed lessons in there being taught by her and 2 aides. We went to Ms. Weaver's Family and Consumer Science, and I talked to her about her curriculum. And I was thrilled to find out that in her 7th grade curriculum, she teaches financial literacy. And then we went to Mr. Rostrelli's STEM class, which was exciting. They were working either in groups or by themselves, and they were figuring how to build a successful catapult. Now, it was just a little thing. It wasn't anything big. But I saw them. They were on their computers. They were talking to each other. It was fabulous. And then he had an engineer, the steps that an engineer takes to solve a problem. And he explained the whole cycle to me. And then he told me that's what the children are using, those steps to try to figure out the development of what they're working on and how to build it. We went into Mrs. Sparr's class. She was working on compounds in her chemistry class. And she gave the children a compound, and I was horrible in chemistry, so this was really exciting to me. Okay, so they had, and then she took that compound and she put it in a scenario of what that compound does to our environment, how it causes erosion, how it deteriorates metal. It was awful, and I'm all the way through there thinking, oh my golly, why don't we get rid of this thing? It was water, which I knew, but the kids didn't know, and they had to try to figure this out. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time for me to stay there and watch them do this. I would have loved to have been there. Mrs. Eby had her students working in groups to determine the purpose, importance, and fairness of several laws in ancient Mesopotamia. She was teaching social studies. I questioned her on curriculum too. I asked her what all the different curriculums, all the different aspects of her curriculum were for the whole year. I learned so much about curriculum and the structure of the middle school and was impressed by the learning taking place. I was in that building for 2 hours and never saw any signs of children running amok. They were very organized. We went by classes as they were being changing classes, and the children would line up against the wall waiting for the other children to come out of that room so they could file in an orderly fashion. But yet I hear these awful things that are happening. So we need to stop that, and before we come here and make it public or make it out there or condemning, I don't want to be condemned for something that I'm not guilty of. Come and talk to me, find out. That's what we need to do. You need to get in there and you need to visit the buildings. And if you're invited to go in, then go. And if you hear something, go in and see for your own eyes. And then you can come back here and spread the truth instead of these false things that are being said. That's all I have for tonight.
I have something. So this is in regards to the heavy topic of transgender policy. And I feel like due to the lawsuit that we should continue discussions about it. And I know that another York County school district has taken steps to put a directive in place to make sure that they don't have a lawsuit. So I just thought that we could do better, I think. More discussion about this idea of not having black and white. This is how we operate. And I just want to open that discussion back up. I feel like our girls need to have more protection. You know, they're young and they're the gender that gets assaulted, and they're the gender who is usually most conscientious about the way they look. They have a hard enough time just undressing, you know, in front of each other, and then they have to worry about now opposite sex being in that environment or participating in sports that, you know, it's just really unfair. So I think as a district we can do something, just like what Red Line did, and put a directive in place to just go by biological, whatever's stated on paperwork that comes in from the parents.
Well, I have 2 kids in the high school, and they never talk about this. They're fine. They've never had an issue. I think parents are making more of a big deal of this than the actual students are. The kids have friends over all the time.
I disagree with that. You can have public comment,
Okay.
period.
Sorry. But I'm just stating.
But
what
don't
I've
you
heard.
think that as parents, we should protect the children? Like, if our parents are upset, we should listen to them. These are their kids. And well, thank goodness I don't have to worry about it, but there's parents out there who probably wonder, is my child going to be in the locker room with somebody who's calling themselves, the opposite now? And what's my child going to come home, like, not wanting to go back to gym class or do this, that, or the other, or, angry because this person's participating in this event with her and now she doesn't have a chance like she used to? I feel like we're making room for the one and forgetting the mass. I know that Title IX says that as a district, we can provide facilities for those children. They're not telling us that we have to include them in the established facilities already. Like locker rooms and bathrooms do not have to be open. They should be provided a separate place to go. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to all the kids, even the ones who feel that way. And I'm not doing this to single out those kids. I'm thinking more, okay, what can we do to make sure everybody's feeling comfortable and in their place where they need to be, especially when you're talking undressing.
What is our current policy on that? Do we have a policy?
I will state this, the Supreme Court has indicated and has decided that you cannot deny locker room or restroom facility usage in the public schools. The red line policy that you're
When?
reflecting,
But when did the Supreme Court, when are you talking about?
I'm sorry, I don't have the date.
I mean,
know
is that within months? Is that
Months
just
of-
since last summer when the new transgender, all that stuff was
No,
coming out?
the transgender, the Title IX that you're referring to deals with the sexual discrimination. Has there been a case decided since then? No, not specifically on that, but it's the Boyertown case that has come out, which indicates that we cannot exclude restroom and locker room facilities. I have provided that information, and I'd be happy to provide it to you as well, that the Supreme Court has indicated that you cannot exclude in those situations. So
I just read something in regards to Title IX and FERPA.
True.
That had
Title
to
IX
do.
has nothing to do with the Supreme Court decision.
And FERPA that had to do with facilities for keeping all those children separated in the school system. That we can do that. There's no wording that I know
You
of
can
that I've
offer
been
it, but
told.
you can't require it.
So do we have a policy on how we handle students like that? Do we have a written policy?
We don't. We've been advised not to have a policy on that and to manage each situation individually as it comes up. Work with families.
But we already are in a lawsuit, which means we didn't handle it properly.
I don't think we're involved in a lawsuit, are we,
What
Ben?
lawsuit are you referring to?
The mother that came here, whose child,
There's no lawsuit.
no
that's been
lawsuit.
filed.
it's been dropped.
Nothing has been filed.
There was never a lawsuit.
There was never a lawsuit that's presented.
I don't know. We'll
I
see.
do. And
So he's communicated to you recently?
no, once that situation happened, there has been no communication from their attorney nor from that parent in regard to that matter.
Do we have a current situation right now?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
No?
No. No lawsuits.
So we're just gonna leave it
Not
open?
in a transgender student using,
No.
All I'm stating is I think that if we make it clear, then we won't have the problem. If we leave it open, we're inviting the problem.
Mr. Pratt, you were alluding to the Red Lion. What did you have to say about that?
Remember that policy is still being discussed, and they have canceled numerous meetings related to it, and they have already been threatened lawsuits by the ACLU and others regarding that policy, should it be implemented.
Okay.
Other school districts over in Lancaster County have looked at the same issue, and they've decided to table those issues, waiting for further direction from the state, the federal government. So they've tabled that situation and waiting further guidance from those government agencies.
But I think the point is the community spoke and the board acted based on what the community wanted. And I still feel like that's our place, to listen to what the community wants. So maybe we need to do a survey, you know. And I'm not saying let's do something wrong based on what the community wants so we open ourselves up to lawsuits. I'm saying there is many young little girls and teenagers in this district who, you know, probably wonder one day, what's it going to look like for them to go into a bathroom or locker room? And they're the gender that is assaulted time and time again when you mix genders in these environments. We've seen it. We've seen it all over the place. So why take the chance? Why not just say this is where we stand? And we're doing it in protection of our students. I don't think that's wrong. It's not discriminatory.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I just want to add one comment on a much lighter note than what's been taking place here. And that is, I wanted to touch on Dr. Cartwright's mention of the Renaissance performance at Carnegie Hall. I had the privilege of attending that performance. It was amazing to see our students there. Mr. Kendig's granddaughter was part of that performance. To see your children up on a stage that's world-renowned like that is just an incredible experience. But there's more to this story than that. And I think this is important for everybody to know. This was actually supposed to happen back in 2021, which was the year of my daughter's graduation. And we all know what happened in 2020. World shut down, COVID hit, and this was one of those things that got canceled. The students then felt devastated by this. This they felt was one more thing that they lost. You know, they lost normal homecomings, they lost normal proms, they lost normal Friday night football games. They lost all of the normalcy of their junior and senior years. But out of the goodness of her heart and her generosity, I think the person that needs to be recognized here is Miss Roberts, our choral director. She actually had the foresight and the forethought to invite those students back when Dover was invited back to Carnegie Hall, so that they didn't lose that opportunity, that once-in-a-lifetime experience. So I really want to publicly thank Miss Roberts for that. My daughter, you know, had a thrilling experience. We had a thrilling experience watching her. So I just wanted to publicly recognize teachers like Ms. Roberts that we have in this district. We have amazing teachers throughout this entire district. Teachers, unfortunately, take too many bashings in public, on social media, things like that. But this needs to be publicly noted. She did something incredible here. She didn't forget those kids, and she didn't forget what they lost, and she took care of them. So I just want to give kudos to her for doing that. So any other comments or observations from our board members? Okay, that brings us to our final public comment period. Again, a 30-minute period for items on or off the agenda. 2 minutes per speaker. If you have anything you'd like to state, please come to the microphone. State your name and address for the record.
So my name's Alan Hogan, 2500 Admire Springs Drive. So I didn't come to speak. I was just here to watch. But I just have one simple thing to say. Don't assume that kids aren't impacted by mixed gender in the locker room. That's all I'm saying. I have 6 through the high school. Some of them don't want to stand up because they get, pushed down. But I have 3 girls. That's all I'm saying. I know. I'm just saying, don't assume. Ask the kids. Ask them privately. Don't ask them in front of their peers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Okay, Mr. Conley?
Thank you. My first comments are going to be somewhat controversial, I'm sure. I do not want to say anything that shows any lack of appreciation for the accomplishment of the children in the school. However, the construct of front-loading our meetings with the presentations, it discourages attendance. This facility won't handle the crowd. There was such an overflow crowd here tonight that it was outside the door. If you have a member of the public that's trying to attend this meeting for the first time, they're going to show up and say, there's no way I'm going to get in. And they're going to not attend. I know there's some availability, through electronic means to watch the meeting after the fact. But it seems that those types of things would be better done in a school assembly. You can bring all the parents in to a larger meeting room, give them an audience and an opportunity to present rather than taking board time, because it reduces our time for deliberation. And parking lot is slam full, so it puts a stress on the meeting. I'll say again, the consent agenda needs to be restructured. We're mixing non-germane items here. Field trips, policy, bills, payments, appointments, leave requests, prom contracts, finance reports, which should always be separate. The minutes approvals should always be separate. Business contracts, the ones that are in there this time, should have absolutely been separate. Job descriptions, law firm contracts, I would say that most certainly needs to be out there so the public can see that and have access to it. When it gets buried, we have a 7-0 silent vote on a boatload of public business, and it's concealed. The last thing is that negotiations committee. No offense to anyone here. We have a diverse board, but the people in the negotiations committee, one's wife is a teacher, the other one's a former teacher. I'm not sure about the other member there, but those three members, I think, have conflicts. And it's driving a potential 5.6% tax increase again this year. That's a lot of cost, and we just gave a bunch of raises.
I'd like to clarify, Mr. Conley, that nobody on that negotiating committee has a spouse that is employed in the district.
I understand that, but there's affinity relationships, teachers, wives teachers, former teachers.
Thank you for your time. Okay, anybody else?
Craig Kendig, Willapa Drive. We can agree to disagree on critical race theory. There's not a district in the United States that'll admit they're teaching critical race theory. I know what I saw. I saw first graders come in here. Social and emotional grooming is what's going on. It's associated. Secondly, we had a parent come here and say that their child was looking at transgender, moving sex, whatever, and they were never notified. I spoke after that parent spoke, and I said to this board and administration, what is the Dover School District policy as far as notifying parents? Whether you want to talk about the use of bathrooms or other things, that's another subject. But I think the parents of this school district ought to know that if their child comes to school and starts talking about changing sex, that parent will be notified. I don't think that's asking too much as a parent. One last comment, since we have a new financial person, a new facility person, we spent an awful lot of time talking about how much are we going to charge the taxpayers to use this school building. I brought up last year, we have a business operating in the school building, doesn't pay 1 penny of taxes to this school district, doesn't pay anything for the use of the school, and we allow that to go on, and yet we spend a half an hour, 45 minutes figuring out what we're going to charge the taxpayers to use this building. Something's wrong, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kendig. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Conley, I just also wanted to address one thing from your first public comment. When it comes to the cyber charter schools, I would highly encourage you to talk to Representative Grove. We can't do anything about them. He can. You know, he's at the state level. So I'd suggest trying to reach out to him and connect with him and share your conversations, you know, and concerns with him on that. Okay? Thank you.
Also, we have 2 representatives.
Oh, yes, Don Kiefer. Yeah, Don Kiefer also. Depending on where you live within the district, Don Kiefer might be your representative. Okay. So, okay. Okay, future meeting announcements. We have February 14th, Happy Valentine's Day, our board planning meeting and work session at 6 p.m. And February 21st, 2023, our board meeting at 7 p.m. So if there is no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.